Most global conflicts in the modern era don't begin with massive coordinated invasions. They start quietly, completely out of sight. Deep in the middle of the South China Sea, hundreds of miles from major cities, sits Pratas Island. Look closely and you'll see flat terrain, a single runway, and a handful of military structures. No large population, barely any infrastructure. Yet military planners in Washington and across Asia are tracking every movement on this strip of sand. If armed conflict breaks out between China and Taiwan, the first shots likely won't be fired at Taipei. They will be fired here. To see why this outpost commands so much attention, check the map. Mainland China sits to the west. Taiwan lies to the north. Pratas Island is trapped directly between them, controlled by Taiwan but dangerously exposed. Over the last several months, Chinese Coast Guard vessels have crowded these waters. Surveillance aircraft and drones are flying closer, testing response times and boundaries. Analysts call this strategy gray zone pressure. It operates in the space between peace and active combat. No shots are fired, but the constant physical presence forces the defending side to burn resources and remain on high alert. Taiwan is actively rotating troops and upgrading defensive infrastructure on the island in response. Across the Pacific, the United States is monitoring these calculated maneuvers, knowing a minor miscalculation in these waters could trigger a chain reaction. The roots of this tension stretch back to the mid-20th century Chinese Civil War. When that conflict stalled, two governments emerged, both claiming legitimacy over the region. Neither side surrendered their claim. Over the decades, Taiwan built its own political structure and modernized its military. Concurrently, Beijing maintained a strict policy that Taiwan is unfinished territory that must eventually return to its control. But Taiwan developed near-total dominance over the production of the world's most advanced microchips. These tiny components power modern life, from commercial smartphones to military satellite defense systems. Getting those electronics, along with millions of barrels of oil and industrial materials, to the rest of the world requires cargo ships to navigate the specific maritime routes, crisscrossing the waters right around Taiwan and Pratas Island. Because these waters act as the primary artery for the global chip supply, any force that controls Pratas Island effectively controls the physical security of the world's most critical technology. This concentration of value transforms every nearby outpost into a mandatory stepping stone for regional dominance. Pratas Island serves one primary tactical function. It is a foundation for the massive radar installations bolted to its coastline. Placing an outpost here allows Taiwan to expand their sightlines deep across the water. They can detect aircraft, ship movements, and missile launches much closer to the Chinese mainland. In supersonic warfare, catching a launch early translates directly into time. Pratas acts as an early warning tripwire, buying them precious minutes to activate defense systems and scramble fighter jets. Launching an amphibious invasion directly into mainland Taiwan would require massive troop mobilization against heavy entrenched resistance. Taking a small, isolated dirt strip is significantly easier. Neutralizing Pratas Island first would punch a massive hole in Taiwan's early warning perimeter. It is the mathematically optimal move to blind the defense before a larger assault begins. Military planners are actively wargaming three specific scenarios for this region. The first is an escalation of the current pressure, continuous patrols designed to exhaust defending personnel without firing a shot. The second scenario is a logistical blockade. An opposing fleet could restrict access to supply routes, delaying fuel deliveries and cutting off communication lines, slowly starving the island's operational capacity over time. The third and most dangerous option is a sudden seizure, a lightning-fast ground operation designed to overwhelm the local garrison and physically capture the radar arrays before external reinforcements can mobilize. None of these scenarios are theoretical exercises. They are active blueprints, currently being analyzed and tracked day and night by expanded U.S. satellite surveillance. The fall of Pratas Island functions as a carefully laid geopolitical trap. It forces an impossible decision onto the United States and its allies. Do they risk triggering a global conflict to defend a tiny, mostly uninhabited sandbar in the middle of the ocean? Or do they stand down, fail to respond, and instantly signal that they are ceding control of the Pacific? The course of global history is rarely dictated in crowded capital cities. Instead, it pivots in quiet, overlooked places. If the first domino falls on Pratas Island, The ensuing military and economic shockwaves will hit every single shore on Earth.